Let's talk some Battlehawks football, Arlington. Good to see you, my friend. Huge offseason that you guys had. A lot of changes. Moving on from
Absolutely.
A.J. McCarron, which was he expressed his opinion on it. I don't know if you ever heard of McCready and Siskey, but he went on there and expressed a lot of displeasure, which basically he said this release that he had came out of nowhere. Why do you think that the Battlehawks decided to move on from A.J. McCarron and go in a different direction?
Well, I can't really comment too much on it, but from what I know is that there was some conversation between AJ McCarron and Coach Anthony Becht, and the direction that they wanted to go was different. And there was some talk about when things were going to be brought to the table, when it was going to be made public, and so it led to you saw AJ McCarron's anger because of that, and now McCarron's out, and now we're looking for a new quarterback to lead the team going into the 2025 season.
I think what sucks is that Lindsey Scott's gone too, isn't he? No, yeah,
well,
he's
Lindsey
he's
off the Roughnecks. Yeah, he's coaching now. Oh, I'm sorry, from Dallas, from the Renegades, excuse me. Yeah, he left. And you know what? With this Battlehawks team, with the quarterbacks that they have, I know a lot of people were not thrilled with Manny Wilkins. And right now, as we're sitting here on February 19th, this is his job to lose. I know Max Duggan is the name compared to Manny Wilkins is as a bigger presence than Manny Wilkins. And then Cordero that came in, drafted by the Battlehawks in the UFL draft. Duggan has the presence, he has the bigger name, but Manny Wilkins knows the team, right? And now with the hiring of Seneca Wallace, I think at this rate, it's going to be interesting to see where they go. But I still believe this is Manny Wilkins' team going into 2025.
Let me ask, because I was literally about to ask you about the hire of Seneca Wallace. What's the overall perception of getting a guy like that? He has a lot of NFL experience. The guy is an electric quarterback during his time. Will he have any say in the play calling, or will this just be a position coordinator that he'll be just taking?
I think he's just going to handle the quarterbacks going into this 2025 season. Coach Becht actually went out on social media and brought in Seneca to be the quarterbacks coach, and then he promoted Phil McGogan to be the offensive coordinator, who was the wide receivers coach last season. So at this rate, we're going to see a different look, especially game-wise, from the Battlehawks on the offensive side. And you're getting a coach here. This is his first year as an offensive coordinator at the pro level. He's done it. He did it at the high school level. But here he is in a pro level, and he's going to get the opportunity to showcase what he can do with this receiver core that he does have, and it is stacked.
Yeah, you talk about the receiving core. That was a huge factor for the Battlehawks last year. Even the defensive side of the ball, to me, I thought was the biggest strong point of this team last year. I mean, you just got so many takeaways, and this is a defense that was probably a top 3 defense in the UFL last year. I know that there is a lot that this team is bringing back. I think Donnie Abraham is a brilliant defensive mind. I think he has a lot of experience. On the defensive side of the ball, just give an update to everybody who may not have been following along with the Battlehawks. Just talk about the roster overhaul and what you guys bring back in 2025.
Well, from what I have noticed on the roster end, Travis Feeney coming back is huge. And then Peter Tomapino, who in the XFL was a defensive player of the year, coming back again for a second season with the Battlehawks. Chris Payton-Jones, cornerback, who was very, very solid. Bringing back guys like Cameron Kelly, and then adding more to the mix with Miles Sims. And then, those are the core people like Nate Meters and stuff like that. They bring forth a strong presence, especially on the secondary side, and then bringing a guy like Mike Rose at linebacker, who was a dog all season long for the Battlehawks. Those are the core pieces that you got to look at right now going into this 2025 season, and it looks very promising. And that was the great thing about this Battlehawks team, is that the majority of this roster was able to return.
You know, you mentioned a little bit about the receiving core, and I'll say this: I don't think I've seen a receiving core that's better going into this year than what the Battlehawks have. I mean, you're talking about Hakeem Butler, who UFL Offensive Player of the Year last year. He's back for another year after being with the Cincinnati Bengals on the practice squad. You bring in Denzel Mims, who's a former second-round pick, was projected to be a first-rounder. He brings a lot of experience there. I think he might have himself a breakout season. You know, it's funny, A-Train, because I was literally talking to another co-host of yours, Cullen Watkins, the other day, and he talked about this league being a second chance league. And I love what he has to say about that, because it really is at this point. It really is. And that's what the UFL is. That's why the motto of this league is for the love of the game, because the money doesn't really matter at the end of the day. The stats don't really matter. These dudes just want to get another chance to go back to the league, and the fan experience is amazing.
Yeah, it definitely is. It is one thing that the St. Louis fan base love football, and it's another to have a team that can have historic success where they have winning seasons. They're big on that, but they're also big on postseason play. And you know, last season, the game against the Brahmas, it didn't go their way. Well, mind you, they played them a third time. And that's what you're going to have to deal with in this league, is that with an 18 group, you're potentially going to have to play a team 3 times. And third time wasn't the charm for the Battlehawks case. And one of the things that I have learned is third time you have to play even better than you did the 2 times before, no matter what the record was. And in this case, it's still looking strong for this group. It's just that they got outplayed in that title game, and they want to bounce back, and they want to insert themselves into the UFL championship game this upcoming season.
What does a healthy Ja'Cour Pearson bring to this Battlehawks offense?
Oh, he's lightning quick, and you want him on the field every time, because he's a weapon. And what it does, it allows other guys to be a part of the mix, guy like a Blake Jackson into the mix, a Mateo Durant at running back, who had showed some strong promise at the running back position last year. It allows other people to be involved with this offense. And Ja'Cour is going, once he gets the ball, it's going to take a lot to try and stop him. And so the big question still is going to become who is going to be QB number 1 for the St. Louis Battlehawks. And
do you think it's going to be back and forth?
You know what? I think Becht's going to allow Seneca Wallace to see who's the better of the bunch. Now, if Cordero does get the job, that means Seneca saw it, and so did Coach Becht. If Duggan gets the job, it's same ordeal. But again, I'm still on the bandwagon of Manny Wilkins, because he has had some experience with these guys. He's gotten a chance to be a part of it, even if it was for one game. And I just found it funny that a lot of Battlehawks fans were very dismissive of Manny Wilkins. And I'm like, I remember a couple years back with Nick Tiano. When he was the backup, he came in for A.J. McCarron for a game, and he came and showed out. Granted, it wasn't the best of stats, but folks was like, oh my God, let's keep Tiano as starting quarterback. It was like a whole mix. And I'm like, Manny Wilkins, just because he threw 3 interceptions, that was because this was his first game. He was getting an opportunity to see what the game was like. And they gave, just because of those 3 interceptions, people were quickly dismissive of him. I'm like, he's now getting an opportunity to work with the team, the one team. And, you're getting the opportunity to see what he can bring to the table. You can see he's a mobile quarterback. He can move out of the pocket. He can run with the best of them. He reminds me a bit of Jordan Te'amo when he was the quarterback in 2020. So I don't think Battlehawks fans need to be so dismissive of Manny Wilkins so quick. I understand that Max Duggan has a bigger profile, but again, this is Manny Wilkins' team. Until then, unless Wilkins gets hurt or he has a poor performance with this number one team, that's Manny's team now at quarterback.
Do you think that they'll come up with a package for a guy like Max Duggan, kind of like what Arlington did with Lindsey?
It's going to be interesting to see what McKagan does because Gradkowski was full on A.J. McCarron, and now with the new offensive coordinator in the mix, there's a good chance they may change it up just to throw teams off balance. So, again, a lot is out there. We don't know who's going to actually be the final people of the roster, but I'm just going by what we see so far. And as much as I want to sit there and say Max Duggan should be the quarterback of this team, I can't see that.
Definitely is going to be a fun competition as we get closer to the regular season starting, which will be March 28th. So a week from Friday will be a full month before we get into the UFL season. Let's just talk about the UFL as a whole, A-Train, because I talked with Cullen about this yesterday, and it feels like this seems to be a make or break year for the league, because I've heard talks about, from, you might know him, Southern Charm Sports. We've talked a good bit about the future of the league, saying this could be a team where, or this could be a league where this could be the last season of the league, how this is a very pivotal one, especially for attendance. We've heard a lot of fan bases and a lot of basically the ticket sales execs at these different franchises are literally calling their fans to say, hey, are you going to the game? How pivotal is it for this year for fans to go to the games for the survival of the league?
Here's my thing on the UFL. The UFL is getting looked at like it's basing it off of its audiences, as in television audiences. And they want somewhere close to 1 million viewers each week. They didn't have it as much last year, but my thing is it can be done because you're bringing back players that are now familiar with their teams. It's now about the marketing ability, and it's about really what you should do is get these players to go out into these different markets to promote the league. I understand you won't have as much time to get prepared for the season. Probably going to be just a month. But like I said, training camp is coming soon. I think within the next week or so, because they got to get ready for the season. But at the same time, you got to get people out there. You got to get the players out there. These are our players. I'm having so many people come to me and saying, I'm tired of the NFL and the junk that they throw out, and I want something different. And that was said even with 2020. And that's why that was special. Reason why I could say that about that 5 years ago, when I say the Battlehawks literally had St. Louis on their shoulders in 2020, it was literally like that. And it's all due, in my opinion, to Kurt Hunzinger, who now part of the National Lacrosse League, how he was able to turn that ship around. Every single week, there was something Battlehawks related to get the people in the community ready to have a pro football team back in town. And I think that's what's being missed here in this incarnation of spring football, is the community. That's what brings everything together. And there are supposed to be 2 events here in St. Louis about for the Battlehawk fans, but it's weather. Weather played a big part of it, and they canceled them both. But here's my thing. Hope you keep your foot on the gas as much as possible. You need to keep foot on next. because if you don't, this league is going to expire, and it's not going to be, it's going to be nothing but a footnote like it has been in the past. Like, there have been great opportunities here, and that continues to get missed. Like, instantly 2020 had the audience, it had the marketing, the game was yet growing each and every week. Then COVID hit. Then we had to wait 3 years before it came back again. It had to regain the trust of the fans again. And it didn't hit the mark as it should have, but it was still, all 40 games that season was great gameplay. I think about 88% of those games, close to 90%, were competitive. And so that's what you should have built on. And it just, the merger, I think the merger really, it took a big hit for fans, because we were just getting ready to understand, to build on this spring football. A little competition don't hurt nobody. That's how I felt about that. And I understand, I hear the cries of those that were in since 2020, even those from 2019 when it was the Alliance of American Football. I hear the cries still. So it's just, it's crazy to me how we've fallen so far from what happened in 2020.
And you talk about getting players involved. That's why PFN is trying to get the name out there for the UFL. It's by getting guys like that on shows like this. It's about promoting the league. It's about going to Radio Row and promoting the league. It's about the CEO. Oh, God dog it. Fullback for the Cowboys. Daryl something.
Daryl Johnston. Yeah, Daryl Johnston. Moose. Daryl Johnston. Yeah, absolutely.
It's about Moose going to Radio Row and telling fans, go to the games. You are having the time of your life. I watched on TV St. Louis Battlehawks games, and I looked at the dome. I looked at what that stadium looked like. The freaking place was unbelievable. I was like, oh my gosh, it was beautiful there. I was like, I want to experience that. That's something that captivates me as a guy who's so interested in spring football. That's something that needs to be shown to other viewers around the state of around the United States. And that's why people are pro. This needs to happen. Go to the games. And the UFL is already saying that we want to expand and to go to two different cities. They haven't announced who it is yet, but it's going to come very soon. My question is, what are the two teams, and will it even happen if things don't change?
Listen, you know what? I'm not even, here's my thing about the game plan for the UFL. You got to give me at least 2 to 3 years with these 8 teams, because I need something established. You know what I mean? And every year there's some type of inconsistency with this league. And it's like people are seeing what's going on, and it's going to, that people are going to revolt against it if they don't tighten up the ship. If you go online, you can go and read about the jobs that are out there for the UFL.
Yes.
It's public knowledge. Like, people aren't stupid. They want to see this league grow. And like you said, Lucas, it's about growing the league. That's all it's been about. That's why I find it funny that a lot of teams, a lot of people are being very hesitant on allowing their players to come participate. I'm like, we're pushing the league because we want to see them grow. And my honest opinion, I really wished that the UFL did not do anything with the NFL. Seriously. Yeah. Because they're not competing against the NFL. The NFL doesn't want any type of league where they need to pluck from and bring in and plug into their teams. They're getting the low end of the totem pole, whereas the UFL, you can be a star in this league. But again, a lot of moving parts with that. It goes to the fans, it goes to the executives, it goes to the venues, it goes to all of that. And the game itself, if the game works, how come you can't build off that? And the game had worked a lot over the past season. But it's just like it just mind boggles me, sir, that they haven't figured out how to maintain and keep a consistency.
I think that's something that the UFL is going to struggle with. If things don't change this year, the future of the league is in jeopardy. Let's just put that out there. And like you mentioned, the fan interaction is the most important thing that their franchise needs. It's got to happen one way or another. If it doesn't happen this year, you got to find a better marketing strategy, because from what I've heard, when the merger happened, two things happened. You got a league that one was struggling with fan attendance, one was struggling with money, and you brought those two issues together to try and merge them, and now you're kind of struggling with the same thing. Please correct me if I'm wrong, if that's the case.
You're not wrong at all, Lucas. That has been the main thing here. And when you look at leagues like the CFL, when you look at the European League of Football, how in the world, sir, is the European League of Football able to have the amount of success that they're having? And they're doing it with way better crowds. This is American football overseas, and they're doing well with consistency, with marketing. They are doing fantastic. Even in their platform is streaming in the States. That's it. Yet they have a core audience, and they're doing well. That they're continuing to grow each and every year. Why are not our executives looking into that? You wonder why the CFL continues to operate, right? And it's amazing to me that this league, and you can sit here, I'm saying I'm downing the league. No, we're being truth tellers about what we see. That's the big thing here. And we sit there, we say we can bitch, we complain, but if you're giving us reason to. That's my thing. You're giving us reason to do that.
A-Train, legacy media hates me. And I'll tell you why. I got in trouble with the freaking Saints because I was a truth teller about them. They banned me from being a media member for their games. Kid you not. I pissed off the communications department there. And they went to our director and said, he can't come to the games. Because I told the truth about what was going on in that franchise. That I told them that some of these media members that are there are so objective, and they're looking just for a drama alert to happen. Like it's a freaking Killer Keemstar news broadcast. It made me so laugh with the amount of questions that they were asking. It just felt like I was on an ETV press conference instead of a football press conference. I was like, are we going to get to something football related? I know this team is bad and all, but we can at least talk about the football aspect instead of, oh, what's going to happen on this episode of drama inside the Saints or drama inside this organization. That is what has happened in the world of media. That's why legacy media hates me. That's why they hate us doing things like this, is because we tell the truth. They don't like our takes, but guess what? We do what we do. That's why I got a lot of media members around the state of Louisiana that are hated by other organizations because they tell the straight truth. And we got to tell the truth about the UFL. It's struggling. It has struggled for the last year and a half. It is going to continue to struggle if they keep up with these same deals. You got to come up with better marketing strategy to promote the league. That is what they have failed to do for the last year and a half. That energy drink that The Rock created to get the UFL name out there, who the hell is buying that?
Listen, it's a one-of-a-kind thing, but at the same time, what's been missed is the fact that where is Dwayne The Rock Johnson? If you've been making this push for guys,
all I've heard is Moose talk about the league. Where's The Rock been? He ain't been making any good movies recently.
Exactly. And I'm sitting back and I'm just watching the drama unfold. Like I hear something come out every single time. And you know, but big ups to those that are keeping their eyes on everything that's going on in alternative football. Guys like Mike Mitchell, guys like James Larson, guys like Greg Parks, right? Guys like Reed Johnson. They guys like you, Lucas, you continue to do this and you fight in a good fight for those that are out there and wanting to know what in the hell is going on.
We gotta know.
Because and you can't smooth it out like peanut butter to make you think that this is everything is just okie doke. It's not. And fans are all seeing it. Like, listen, I have nothing against Birmingham's franchise, the Stallions.
No.
That losing Zach Potter is huge, right? He lost in the Sacramento State University. We had Jose Jefferson on our show a few weeks back, and he talked about the landscape of what's going on right now. And it's not the best. And that's what's making it so hard for those that want to be a part of it to stay a part of it. It makes it hard. Your girlfriend keeps cheating on you, and you're like, but I still love you. I still love you, man. Like, come on. Like, I need you to still be here with me, man. You know what I'm saying? Look, come on, dude. What are we doing here? It's like the girl is like, she cheats on you every day, but you still love the girl. That's how we feel about the UFL. Like, we get cheated on, but we still want you to succeed. And it's hard.
Yes.
Hard.
Literally, last year was the first time I ever went to a UFL game in person. I had watched the league and was very interested in it. I didn't start covering it heavily until the beginning of this year. I was so involved with trying to get the UFL's name out there. Arlington. I have been podcasting for the last, will be going on 2 years. I literally just started this thing. I'm new to the game still. I literally started live shows. What month are we in? We're in February.
We're in February now, yeah.
December, November. 4 months ago. I started this thing 4 months ago, A-Train. But the response I've gotten from UFL fans talking about the league and just promoting it has been overwhelming. I've had UFL fans flood my DMs with questions, with comments, with just thank you notes that I've gotten from them. Just saying, thank you for spreading the word. It's about time somebody outside of the usual suspects like yourself, like James Larson, and the rest of the guys at the UFL PFN newsroom, and the guys at United Football Media that have talked about the league. And that's what is to be needed. You have to get outside noise involved, and you have to get other guys involved. It can't just be a short period of time where spring football is the main thing from the end of February to the UFL championship game in June. It has to be a year-round thing where you talk about that. There's something that's always to be talked about. That's what the guys at PFN do.
You know, when in 23, well, better yet, in 23 and 2020, they had the best idea was to keep going after the Super Bowl. Another week. And this is the crazy thing. What was that? 2023, we had XFL February to April, USFL April to June, college football right after that, NFL right after that. We literally had a year.
It was perfect.
Football.
I think, in my opinion, the merger should have never happened. Because you're just correlating two problems together.
And what's mind-boggling with that is that the name Brian Woods always sticks out to me. And the reason why I use Brian Woods was the person that brought back the USFL. And don't get me wrong, he did what he's supposed to do, and then he got out of there. He got out quick. But when you give a guy like Brian Woods out there, he just seems to mess things up a bit. You know, he had the one thing I would say he had that was very successful was the TSL, the Spring League.
Yeah.
The Spring League
was a lot of fun.
Good. It was good. And I will give him credit for that. But any other thing that he tried to do, I didn't want nothing to do with. But he was able to get the USFL out there. And now the USFL, at least name-wise, they're going into their 4th season. Whereas the XFL is going into their 3rd. And then we get this UFL thing in its 2nd year. But year 2, it's supposed to have been seriously a 3-year plan, especially if we go back to 2020. We go back to 2020, it was supposed to have been 3 years for that league to be successful. Vince McMahon put it out there. If you really paid attention, Vince McMahon stayed out the way. He allowed the football people to do the football job. The only time you seen him during that 2020 year was the announcement of the league and when the cities were announced. After that, he went back to go focus on WWE. That's kind of where I am with this UFL stuff. Granted, you went and got football people, but something just ain't clicking with these football people to make this league a success. Something just ain't clicking. And I'm trying to, it's been mind-boggling me for the last couple of years now. Yeah. What does it need to click to say this is how we should have spring football and it can continue? I implore you guys to always check in about the USFL back in the 80s. I implore you to read that story.
There's a 30 for 30 about it.
Exactly. There's a book about it by Jeff Pearlman. There's a book about it. That's the thing. I would love to truly learn about David Dixon, the person that was behind this, and how it could have worked. I'm like, what pieces did they take to try and make this spring league work now? And they didn't. I think the one thing that they messed up on because they were afraid that it wasn't going to work was getting ownership. Is ownership with big high billionaires and millionaires, because the problem was these billionaires were not going to believe in the product or invest in it. And that's crazy to me.
Yep, absolutely.
They said it's not worth their time.
Yeah.
So they had to cover all the expenses and say, hey, we're going to keep it league. It's going to be us. We're just going to own the league. And then hopefully somebody will invest in it down the line. Something's got to change it. That's how I look at it.
Do you think it needs a change in upfront personnel wise? Like, does Moose need to go? Like, what needs to change for the league?
I don't know anymore. I'm honest. I don't know. I have lost out on what needs to be done to change it. Moose is a football guy. Moose has done it. He was in the XFL 2020.
Yeah.
You know, he was the GM for the Dallas Renegades, you know, and then he took over the USFL. So I don't know. Russ Brandon is over it now. He was over the XFL in 2023. It's definitely an optics thing. Like, optics got to be key. Like, I will applaud the UFL for what they're doing broadcasting wise, especially on ESPN. I'm very curious what they're going to do with the Fox side of things.
Right.
It hasn't been announced yet, but I'm curious to see how that was going to do. Because what could happen is similar to what happened in 2020. Like, when I say Fox on XFL on Fox was something to see, that was something. XFL on ABC, ESPN, that was something. those network games were amazing.
Those night games were awesome.
And not to mention, Lucas, have you ever watched FS2 before?
I do.
Did you know that the highest rated thing on FS2 was an XFL game?
I did not. But I can see why. Because FS2, you've got horse racing, you've got soccer, you've got some little baseball games. What are people going to watch? Why not watch a pro league?
Exactly. So I'm like, I just never understood why they didn't build off of that. Never understood that. And I got a whole show about this tomorrow. Whole show about
that. We just gave the audience, you just gave your audience basically what you're going to cover tomorrow. Let me ask you this. Could Will Lewis evolve into a higher up position? I mean, this is a guy that is USFL defined. He's a former gambler, played there from 84 to 85. He's been in other leagues. He's been in the CFL for a while, was with the Denver Gold initially in the USFL, goes to Memphis, the Express initially during the Alliance, then was the Houston Roughneck as pro personnel, was in the UFL with San Antonio. Then now he's the new GM for the Roughnecks. Do you think it's going to be a while? If the league is to continue, do you think Lewis could evolve himself into a higher up position? Because if there's anybody that can help promote the league, I think Lewis has got to be the guy.
I look at it like this. Compared to what the Roughnecks did in 2024, I think his focus needs to stay right there in Houston. Get that team together. Get that back to prominence again. And I think they'll be fine.
Right. I'm not saying right now, but I'm saying for the future of the league. If the league is to continue in the future, do you think he would be the guy?
It's going to, in this case, it's going to depend on what Houston does this season. It's going to depend a lot on what they do this year. If they're able to have a winning record, if they're able to push past the Michigan Panthers, because right now nobody can beat the Birmingham Stallions. And until that happens,
not with Magoo back either.
Exactly, right? This is Birmingham's league. And until that is the case, I don't see Will going anywhere different until somebody knock off Birmingham. And Houston wants to do it more than anything. And Memphis getting Ken Wisenhunt, that's going to be something to see too. That's going to be something to see too. We had TJ Bernieri on the show a couple weeks back, 2-3 weeks ago. And he's very excited. Don't get me wrong. I love John DeFilippo. Love the guy.
He popped off at me during a press conference.
He ain't Ken Wisenhunt.
I don't know if you saw the video or not, A-Train. There was a video whenever I asked Flip a question. He said 12 attempts for 15 yards. Would you keep rushing? He said, next question. That was me. But I love Flip at the bottom of the line. But I think Wisenhunt is a hell of an offensive mind. He was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're getting to take control of a young offense. I think that genius is going to really help himself and put Memphis in a much better position than they were with Flip.
Especially having quarterbacks like Quentin Normandy coming in over from San Antonio. Like, your quarterback room is way different than it was a year ago. And I'm very curious to see what that squad was like. I'm going to make a trip to Memphis for one of those games because I want to see that Wisenhunt team together. I want to see what they put out and how well they can mesh in a quick amount of time. Because remember, let's not forget, Ken Wisenhunt has taken a team to a Super Bowl. So it's going to be interesting to see what that mindset is going into this new season.
And on that Super Bowl team that he took, that was an old squad. You had an aging Kurt Warner. Sure, your receiving core was young with Fitzgerald still at the helm, and you had an excellent defense as well. But I think that this could be a much better situation that he's in because generally the league of UFL, you're getting 25 to 30-year-olds. So it's a fairly young roster, not a bunch of old heads like you see in the NFL. You're not getting 31, 32, 33-year-olds on a UFL roster. I can promise you that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just good to see majority of these players come back. I think that should be the build right there. The majority of players that are either signed with new teams that are returning to the league or the players that just actually return to their same teams. So that's where I think that this league can build on and build around those players. I hope they do that.
The league begins Friday, March 28th. Friday Night Lights between the Houston Roughnecks, the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Two of my favorite teams.
Battlehawks are a favorite to make it back to the UFL to make it to the UFL championship, the first one that they would have. It would be their second title overall if they are to win it all this year. None other than our good friend Arlington Lane joining us once again, covering all things UFL, Battlehawks, and Roughnecks. A-Train, it's been a pleasure having you, my friend. Tell the audience where we can find you. I know that we got a good bit of them tuning into the show right now.
The A-Train Show. You can follow me on X there. You can follow the X Fan Show. And always check out Fuel Sports Network at Fuel Sports Net on X. FuelSportsNetwork.com too.
Hey, let me ask you a question before we let you go because I know you're into wrestling. How you feeling about WrestleMania 41 coming to New Orleans?
42?
42. Thank you.
I'm for it. You know what I mean? There's always big moments that happen in New Orleans, and that is always a good place to have a WrestleMania, especially down at the Superdome. And I'm for it. I'm looking forward to this one coming up in Vegas, and the timing of it is literally 2 months away, like legitimately 2 months away for it. And New Orleans is always a special place in WWE's heart, and they've had some of the biggest moments in WrestleMania history. Let's not forget how the Yes Movement was so big at WrestleMania 30. And so, and it's crazy to even think how it was 11 years ago when the Yes Movement jumped off like that. So, and I'm older now, as you can see, man. You can see I got my white hair and whatnot, man. So,
come on now.
Listen, losing hair and whatnot, man.
Oh my goodness, are you jealous?
A little bit. I want some, man.
Oh Lordy. A-Train, it's been a pleasure having you on, my friend. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll catch you hopefully in about a